Welcome to Pennsylvania in Focus. I'm Eliana Kernodle. When it comes to the Pennsylvania budget, one thing at least has been solved, but we still don't have a budget. Here to tell us more about this is the Northeast Regional Editor for the Center Square, Kristen Smith. Kristen, tell us a little bit about where we stand with the budget right now.
So optimistically speaking, we're a bit closer to a resolution than we were, say, last week. That's because a chunk of money was taken from somewhere else, from a different fund, in order to temporarily solve the mass transit funding issues that were particularly affecting SEPTA in Southeast Philadelphia. That has led to service restoration, although fare increases are still on the table. Because of that, the major stumbling block to a budget deal has now been removed. Of course, it's kicking the can down the road because this will almost certainly rear its ugly head next budget season or even throughout the rest of the year, which we only have a couple weeks of session left in 2025. So now we're looking at the rest of the budget, which generally in most years doesn't really doesn't really hinge on mass transit. Now we're looking at education spending, how much money is going to go into our emergency savings fund. And the question is, since the Senate has adjourned until October, this third week of October, where are we at on a budget deal? Senator Pittman, who is the Republican majority leader in the Senate, released a statement. It was a little bit vague, but said that he thinks that there will be a deal soon. The House comes back next week. So we'll see. It's been very contentious, and the temporary solution on mass transit does not appease them. And it's unlikely that I think that the tensions are still high, and it's very hard to understand what a budget agreement is going to look like now that the developments over the last few weeks of mass transit.
So how did they come to this temporary solution for mass transit?
Sure. So they're taking a roughly $300 million chunk of money from the mass transit fund that is generally used to make capital improvements, infrastructure improvements to the system. This is something that Senate Republicans had been advocating for. That's what they thought should happen. They wanted to use this fund permanently because it grows in interest every year. They wanted to use it as a way to help SEPTA. Now, that was soundly rejected by Democrats. They wanted nothing to do with that, thought that it was taking away from capital projects that needed that money, that it had a purpose already, and that was not to balance the operating budget of SEPTA. Well, it looks like Senate Republicans have been vindicated, at least in the short term, because that's exactly what ended up happening. Governor Shapiro did that, and now we have a short-term solution. But to the Democrats' credit, it doesn't fix next year and the year after that and the year after that. Next year is going to be really critical because in 2026, Pennsylvania is expecting a large influx of tourism. We have the American 250 celebration. We have the FIFA World Cup. We have the NFL draft. And there's just a lot of influx of people that will be coming, particularly to the Philadelphia region, and relying on mass transit to get around. So it's certainly, if it was contentious this year, it's likely going to get more contentious in the coming months or the coming budget season, which at this point, we're only roughly 6 months away from another budget proposal from the governor.
So with this delay in the budget, how is that impacting the communities in Pennsylvania?
As it goes on longer, their reserves and ability to maintain status quo, of course, is becoming more and more strained. Libraries in particular are really struggling to keep up after, losing their funding. And there are agencies and programs that are getting to the point where they can no longer go on. So it's not the first time that the state has been in this situation. We've had budgets in the last few years that didn't pass in completeness till December. Last year was mid-July. So I think lawmakers want to avoid another December resolution as far as this goes, because that would put, public services in more of a bind. But as I mentioned before, Senate isn't coming back till mid-October, and they really only do, 2 or 3 weeks of session between then and December, when everyone goes home for the holidays. And when we say 2 or 3 weeks of session, we're really only talking about 3 session days every week. So that's a very small amount of time to get things done. Now, they've done that in the past. They've really crammed it in it and gotten it done. But, the way that they tend to wait until the last minute, that really leaves a bad taste in everyone's mouth, and it's pretty unfair to the agencies that really need them to make a decision.
Well, Kristen, thank you for your insights on this story. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com.